I spent 11 hours across 2 playthroughs, experiencing everything the Occultist has to offer. And I had a great time. Don't worry, I won't be spoiling any story moments here, so you can safely watch and listen. So what exactly is this game? The Occultist is a first-person mystery puzzle thriller. It leans into horror, but I wouldn't call it scary. So if you're worried that this might be too intense, it really isn't. Even if you don't usually enjoy horror games, you might still like this one, because it focuses much more on atmosphere and tension, rather than trying to scare you outright. Now, let's talk about story a little bit. You play as Alan Rebels, a paranormal investigator traveling to the abandoned British island in search of your missing father. He's voice acted by Doug Cockle, best known as Geralt of Rivia, and since The Witcher is my favorite franchise, this was a really nice surprise. Although, I do have a mixed feeling about the performance. On one hand, hearing the iconic voice is great, especially in the quieter moments.
This fog makes no sense. Barely see the tip of my nose.
But in conversations, it sometimes feels a bit unnatural, and that can break immersion.
What happened here? What did you do?
But putting that aside, let's talk about the story itself. It's okay. Nothing too special. However, and this is where the game really shines, the environmental storytelling is fantastic. As you explore, solve puzzles, and uncover clues, you slowly piece together what happened on Godstone Island. And honestly, I found the history more interesting than the main plot itself. The game actually reminded me a bit of Resident Evil. It's not on the same level, but the vibe is definitely there. But unlike Resident Evil, there's no real combat here. It's more about avoidance and atmosphere rather than fighting. And that leads perfectly into the atmosphere, because this is easily one of the game's strongest aspects. Instead of relying on jump scares, it builds tension through its environment. Broken furniture, bloodstains, subtle signs that something went wrong, and a lot of these details are hidden, only revealed using your main tool, the pendulum. And the game does a pretty good job guiding you with it, so you're not just wandering around blindly. Now, how does the gameplay actually work? Well, at its core, this is a narrative puzzle game. Each new area presents a main objective, which usually involves solving a larger puzzle. And to do that, you'll need to find items, which are often locked behind smaller puzzles of their own. Most of these aren't very difficult, so don't expect anything super complex. This is much more about exploration than getting stuck on one puzzle. For example, you might find a recipe, search for ingredients, and then combine them correctly. Other puzzles might involve placing objects in specific ways, like aligning busts using clues revealed by your pendulum. And occasionally, the game mixes things up a bit, because there are a couple of boss encounters where you need to use your surroundings to survive. Now, when it comes to your tools, the main one you'll use throughout the entire game is the pendulum, which looks like a scouter from Dragon Ball Z. When using it, it reveals hidden objects and paranormal traces. You do unlock 3 additional abilities as you progress, which are time rewind, crow control, and environmental manipulation. But here's the thing, they're used very rarely. So most of the time you'll just rely on your main pendulum ability. And there's also a small inconsistency here, because sometimes the pendulum stops glowing after revealing something, and sometimes it doesn't. It's not a huge issue, just something I noticed. Now, this part is actually important, especially if you care about 100%ing the game. You need to inspect the objects for them to be recorded in your journal. For example, I once found a combination by rotating an item, but because I didn't inspect it, it never got recorded. So even though I solved the puzzle and I was able to input the code correctly, my journal was incomplete. And speaking of progression, the game is completely linear. Once you leave the area, you can't go back. So before moving forward, it's always a good idea to check your journal. It basically acts as your progress tracker. One thing I should mention here, there's no map or objective markers. But honestly, that's not a problem, because the levels are relatively small and easy to navigate. Whether it's a multi-floor house or something more like the circus area, everything is compact and easy to memorize. So even without a map, you're very unlikely to get lost. And if you care about 100%ing the game, or collectibles in general, you'll definitely want to be thorough before moving on. And while on the subject, let's talk about 100% experience. The good news is you can do everything in a single playthrough, and I would strongly recommend doing that, because I didn't. I missed few collectibles and one other achievement too, which means I had to do a second run. And honestly, the second playthrough wasn't that enjoyable because it doesn't bring anything new to the experience. So yeah, definitely try to do everything in one run if you can. There are 3 types of collectibles that are required for 100%, and they all need to be collected in one run. There's also a speedrun achievement for finishing the game in under 6 hours, which I actually unlocked on my first playthrough, with all the exploration, investigation, and fully filling out my journal. So it seems like the game tracks active gameplay time, not time spent on reading different lore items you found, or going through your journal. Because by my calculation, I spent about 8 hours in my first playthrough, and I still unlocked the achievement. So, after finishing the game, a few things really stood out to me. The biggest thing I liked was the atmosphere. The whole occult setting fits really well here, and keeps you on edge without trying too hard. Exploration also felt rewarding because you're constantly filling your journal with these really nice looking entries, and at the same time, it helps you better understand what actually happened on this island. But on the negative side, you don't really feel much progression from gameplay perspective. The abilities don't change the experience all that much, so most of the time it feels pretty similar throughout. And performance wise, I did run into a few half-a-second freezes when transitioning through areas, which don't break the game, but they are definitely noticeable enough to pull you out of the moment sometimes. So, depending on what you're looking for, the Occultist pleasantly surprised me. It's strong, atmospheric puzzle experience that really rewards exploration. If you enjoy narrative-driven or mystery games, I definitely recommend it. And even if you don't like horror, this is a great entry point into the genre. But if you're looking for action or truly scary experience, this probably isn't it. And that's it for this one. If you played The Occultist, I'd be curious, did you go for 100% or did you just go through the story? And what did you think of it? And if you enjoy these kinds of 100% reviews, consider subscribing. There is more on the way. Thank you for watching. Soma signing off.